She stood in the rain with her baby, ignored by everyone who passed. No money, no shelter, no hope, until one month stopped. And what began that night would change everything. The night she lost everything. The rain didn't fall gently that night. It attacked the streets. Cold drops slammed against broken sidewalks, flooding gutters, soaking clothes, washing away whatever dignity people still had left outside. Under a flickering streetlight stood a woman named Amina. She was thin. Her shoulders curved inward as if she was trying to disappear. In her arms was her baby, wrapped in a faded cloth that had once been a blanket. The child slept lightly, her tiny chest rising and falling against her mother's heart. Every few seconds, the baby stirred, shivering from the cold. Amina shifted her weight, her legs trembling. She had been standing there for hours, not because she wanted to, because she had nowhere else to go. Earlier that day, the landlord had thrown her out. No shouting, no drama, just cold words spoken like business. Rent is overdue. You had enough chances. Amina had begged. She explained about her husband's death, about losing her job after missing work to care for her sick baby, about how she would pay next month. The door closed anyway. By sunset, everything she owned fit into a torn bag. By nightfall, even that bag was gone, stolen while she searched for shelter. Now all she had left was the baby in her arms. And the rain. People passed her constantly. Men in polished shoes stepping carefully around puddles. Women holding umbrellas, scrolling on phones. Teenagers laughing loudly, music blasting from their speakers. Some glanced at her. Most didn't. Amina didn't shout for help. She didn't hold up a sign. She had tried that once before. The looks of disgust had hurt more than hunger. So now she stayed quiet. Invisible, she rocked her baby gently, whispering in a cracked voice, "Please sleep, my love. Mama is here." Her arms ached. Her back burned. Every breath felt heavier than the last. She hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. The last food she had, a dry piece of bread, she had given to the baby. Hunger clawed at her stomach, but fear was worse. What if the baby got sick? What if the cough she heard earlier came back? What if this cold night took something from her that she could never get back? Amina pressed the baby closer, using her own body as a shield against the rain. Water soaked through her clothes, down her spine. She didn't care. Let her freeze. Let her suffer. Just not the child. Nearby, a car slowed briefly. Amina's heart jumped. She lifted her eyes, hope flickering, but the window rolled up and the car drove on. Hope died quietly. Again. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. Time no longer mattered. Then the baby whimpered. A small sound. Weak. Fragile. Amina froze. No, no, please. The baby coughed. Once. Twice. A sharp, painful sound. Amina felt panic tear through her chest. She checked the baby's face under the cloth. Cold skin. Lips slightly pale. Her hands shook violently. She looked around desperately. This time, she didn't care about pride. She searched every face rushing past. Anyone. Someone. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. The rain swallowed her voice. Amun walked past, saw her, frowned, and turned away. A woman glanced at the baby, hesitated, then followed the crowd. Amina felt tears mixed with rain. She whispered again, broken now, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She blamed herself for trusting the wrong man, for believing love would last, for thinking life would be fair. She remembered the day her husband died, the knock on the door, the uniform, the words that shattered her world. She remembered holding her newborn, promising, "I'll protect you, always." And now look at her, standing in the rain, failing. Her knees buckled slightly. She leaned against the pole to stay upright. Her vision blurred. She was so tired, so very tired. Then, footsteps slowed, not rushed, not avoiding her. Someone stopped. Amina didn't look up at first. She was afraid. Afraid it would be another stare, another silent rejection. But the footsteps didn't leave. A shadow fell across her. She slowly raised her head. Aman stood there. No umbrella. Rain dripping from his hair. His clothes were simple. His face serious, but gentle. He wasn't looking at her like she was a problem. He was looking at her like she was a human being. His eyes moved to the baby, then back to Amina. Concern filled his face. Real concern. He spoke softly. "Is your baby okay?" Amina tried to answer. Her throat closed. Tears spilled freely now. She nodded, then shook her head. I don't know," she whispered. That was the moment. The moment everything could have stayed the same. The moment most people would have walked away. But this one didn't. He took one step closer. And Amina had no idea that this single step was about to change her life forever. The man who stopped, and the past he never spoke about. The rain soaked through his shoes. He felt it long before he noticed, but he didn't move. The woman stood in front of him, trembling, her arms wrapped tightly around her baby like she was afraid the world might steal the child as she loosened her grip for even a second. Her eyes were red, not just from crying, from exhaustion. The man swallowed hard. His name was Yusuf. He hadn't planned to stop that night. In fact, he had promised himself he wouldn't. Yusuf had learned the hard way that stopping, caring, getting involved, it always cost something. He had just finished a 14-hour shift at the factory. His back ached. His hands smelled of oil and metal. All he wanted was to get home, eat something warm, and sleep. But when he saw the baby coughing in the rain, something inside him broke. He remembered another night, another rain, another child. Years ago, Yusuf had been walking down a similar street when he heard crying. A woman sat against the wall, holding a little boy. The boy was burning with fever. People passed him too, just like tonight. Yusuf had stopped back then as well. He had taken them to the hospital, paid what little money he had, stayed until morning. But when the boy died 2 days later, the family blamed Yusuf. They said he had delayed treatment. They said he should have done more. They said it was his fault. The words had cut deep. Yusuf stopped helping after that. He built walls around his heart. He told himself, the world doesn't reward kindness. And for years, he walked past pain like everyone else. Until tonight, the baby coughed again. Yusuf stepped closer. "May I see her?" he asked gently. Amina hesitated. Trust didn't come easily anymore. But something about his voice, steady, respectful, made her loosen the cloth slightly. The baby's face was pale. Too pale. Yusuf's chest tightened. "She's very cold," he said quietly. "How long have you been outside?" Amina didn't answer at first. Then, barely audible, "Since morning." Yusuf felt anger rise, not at her, at the world, at himself. He reached into his pocket. Only a few bills. Money meant for food for the week. He hesitated. He thought of the empty fridge at home, the unpaid electricity bill, the warnings taped to his door. He thought of that boy who had died years ago. Then he looked at the baby again. Some decisions don't allow delay. He held out his jacket. "Please," he said, "wrap her in this." Amina shook her head immediately. "No, you'll be cold." Yusuf almost smiled. Even now, even with nothing, she still cared about someone else. "I'll manage," he said firmly. Slowly, reluctantly, Amina took the jacket. The baby relaxed almost instantly, her tiny body pressing into the warmth. Amina's hands trembled as she wrapped her child. "Thank you," she whispered. It was the first kind word she had spoken all day. Yusuf looked around. Cars rushed past. Shops were closing. The city didn't care. But he did. "Where are you staying tonight?" he asked. Amina lowered her eyes. "I don't know." 2 words, heavy as stones. Yusuf closed his eyes for a second. He could walk away now. He had already done more than most. No one would blame him. But he knew, if he left, that baby might not survive the night. He took a deep breath. "There's a small clinic a few blocks from here," he said. "I can take you." Amina looked up sharply. "I don't have money." "I didn't ask," Yusuf replied. Tears filled her eyes again. Not from pain this time. From relief. From disbelief. They walked slowly through the rain. Yusuf shielded them as best he could. At the clinic, the nurse frowned when she saw them. "We're closing," she said. Yusuf didn't argue. He simply placed the money on the counter. "Please." The nurse sighed, then nodded. The baby was examined. Cold exposure. Early chest infection. Another few hours in the rain. And the doctor didn't finish the sentence. Yusuf felt his knees weaken. Amina sat silently, staring at the wall, her hands clenched in prayer. When the doctor finally smiled and said, "She'll be okay," Amina collapsed into tears. Deep, uncontrollable sobs. She clutched Yusuf's arm. "Thank you," she cried. "You saved her." Yusuf shook his head. "No," he said quietly. "You did. I just stopped." Amina looked at him then, really looked, and asked a question that would change everything. "Why did you help us?" Yusuf didn't answer right away. Outside, the rain slowed. Inside, his past knocked loudly at his heart. Finally, he said, "Because once, someone didn't stop for me." And Amina had no idea what that meant or how deeply those words would shape what came next. A place to stay, the choice that could destroy him. The rain had softened by the time they left the clinic. Not stopped, just quieter. Like the city itself was holding its breath. Amina carried Layla close to her chest, the baby now wrapped in clean cloth the nurse had given them. Her breathing was calmer, warmer, alive. Yusuf walked beside them in silence. His jacket was gone. His shirt was soaked. His body shivered. But he didn't feel cold. What he felt was fear. Because now came the hardest part. "Where will you go?" Amina asked quietly. Yusuf didn't answer immediately. He stopped walking. For a moment, he considered the truth. "I don't know." Then he said, carefully, "You can stay somewhere safe tonight." Amina turned to him sharply. "Where?" Yusuf looked away. "My place." The word hung in the air. Amina's heart raced. She stepped back instinctively. "I don't want to be trouble," she said quickly. "You've already done too much." Yusuf met her eyes. "I won't leave a baby outside again," he said. Again. The word carried weight. They walked in silence after that. Yusuf's apartment building was old. Paint peeled from the walls. The stairwell smelled of damp concrete and forgotten dreams. 3rd floor. No elevator. Each step burned Yusuf's legs. Not from exhaustion. From doubt. What if this is a mistake? What if people misunderstand? What if helping cost me everything? Again? Inside, the apartment was small. 1 room, a mattress on the floor, a single chair, a cracked mirror. But it was warm. Yusuf turned on the heater. The electricity light blinked once, then stayed on. For now, Amina stood frozen at the door. She had not been inside a home for weeks. Layla stirred softly. Amina's eyes filled. Yusuf gestured gently. "You can sit." Amina sat on the mattress. She held her baby and whispered prayers under her breath. Yusuf moved awkwardly. He boiled water, found an old cup, made weak tea. It wasn't much, but it was something. "You should sleep," he said. Amina shook her head. "I don't trust sleep anymore." Yusuf understood. He nodded. "I'll stay awake." Hours passed. The baby slept peacefully, for the first time in days. Amina watched Yusuf from the corner of her eye. He sat on the chair, hands folded, staring at the floor. A man with nothing extra, yet giving everything. She finally spoke. "You didn't tell me what happened to you." Yusuf exhaled slowly. "My wife," he said. "She died during childbirth." Amina's breath caught. "The baby?" she asked. "Didn't survive," Yusuf replied. Silence swallowed the room. "I named him before he was born," Yusuf continued quietly. "Omar." His voice broke. "I held him for 5 minutes." Amina pressed her hand to her mouth. "I lost my home after that," Yusuf said. "Couldn't work. Couldn't breathe." He laughed softly, without joy. "People told me to be strong." Amina nodded. She knew those words well. One night, Yusuf continued, I collapsed in the street. He looked up at her. No one stopped. Amina's tears fell silently. That's why, Yusuf said, I stopped for you. The heater clicked off suddenly. The light flickered. Then darkness. Power cut. Amina gasped. Yusuf stood quickly. It's okay, he said, though his heart raced. Another unpaid bill. He lit a candle. The room glowed softly. Just enough. Suddenly, a loud knock at the door. Amina froze. Layla stirred. Another knock. Harder. Yusuf's stomach dropped. He knew that knock. The landlord. Yusuf, a voice barked. Open up. Amina panicked. I can leave, she whispered urgently. No, Yusuf said. The knocking grew violent. You're behind again, the landlord shouted. You have strangers inside. I saw them. Amina's blood ran cold. Yusuf opened the door slowly. The landlord's eyes moved past him. To Amina, to the baby. This is not allowed, the landlord sneered. One more problem, and you're out tonight. Yusuf nodded silently. I'll pay, he said. With what? The landlord laughed. You already owe 2 months. He leaned in close. By morning, you're gone. The door slammed. Silence. Amina shook. This is my fault, she cried. I ruin everything. Yusuf knelt in front of her. No, he said firmly. You didn't ruin my life. He hesitated, then said the words that terrified him. I'll fix this. Amina looked at him. How? Yusuf stared at the candle, at the flame trembling, but still burning. There's one thing I can do, he said, something he swore he would never do again. And in that moment, Amina didn't know that Yusuf was about to risk his freedom for her child, the price of kindness when everything falls apart. Yusuf didn't sleep that night. The candle burned low, its flame trembling against the cracked walls. Amina sat on the mattress, holding Layla close, afraid to close her eyes. Every sound from outside made her body tense. The landlord's words echoed in Yusuf's mind. By morning, you're gone. Yusuf stared at the floor. There was only one way to fix this, and it was a path he had sworn he would never walk again. Just before dawn, Yusuf stood quietly and pulled on his shoes. Amina noticed. Where are you going? She whispered. To work. He lied gently. She nodded, though something in his eyes told her it wasn't the truth. Yusuf stepped into the cold morning air. The city was quiet, but his heart was loud. He walked for nearly an hour until he reached a glass building that looked completely out of place in his world. Tall, bright, unforgiving. Inside worked his brother, the brother who had cut him off years ago, the brother who believed Yusuf's kindness was weakness. Yusuf hesitated at the door. Pride whispered, turn back. Fear whispered, do it. He went inside. The receptionist looked at him with clear judgment. I need to see Kareem, Yusuf, he said. She laughed softly. Do you have an appointment? No. Then leave. Yusuf stood there, silent, waiting. People stared. Whispers followed him. Finally, Kareem came out. Sharp suit, cold eyes. You have some nerve, Kareem said. Why are you here? Yusuf lowered his head. I need help. The words tasted like blood. Kareem scoffed. You always need help. Yusuf clenched his fists. There's a baby, he said. She'll be on the street today if I don't pay. Kareem laughed. You ruined your life already. Now you want me to fix someone else's. Yusuf fell to his knees. Right there, in front of everyone. Gasps filled the lobby. Please, Yusuf said quietly. Not for me, for the child. Kareem froze. Embarrassed, angry. Get up, he hissed. No, Yusuf said. I won't. The silence was suffocating. Kareem's face turned red. Security moved closer. Fine, Kareem snapped. I'll give you money. Yusuf's chest loosened. But Kareem continued, you will sign this. He handed Yusuf a paper. a contract, a confession, one that blamed Yusuf for a past factory accident that wasn't his fault. Sign it, and Kareem would be legally protected. Refuse, and the baby would be homeless. Yusuf's hand shook. This paper would destroy his name forever. He thought of Layla's tiny fingers, her cough, Amina's tears. He signed, without hesitation. Kareem threw cash on the desk. "Take it and disappear," he said. Yusuf picked up the money, walked out, broken. Back at the apartment, the landlord was already there. Suitcases at the door. Amina stood pale, clutching Layla. Yusuf stepped forward and handed over the cash. The landlord counted slowly, then nodded. "You have 1 month." He left. Amina collapsed in relief. "You saved us," she cried. Yusuf forced a smile, but inside, something had shattered. That afternoon, Yusuf returned to the factory. His supervisor waited. "You're fired," the man said flatly. The contract had already done its damage. Yusuf walked home in silence. No job, no future, no safety. But the baby slept peacefully. That night, Yusuf sat alone outside. Rain began again. He whispered into the darkness, "I did the right thing, didn't I?" He didn't know that someone had seen everything. The kneeling, the signing, the sacrifice, and that the truth was about to come out in a way none of them expected. What the world finally saw. The rain returned that night, soft this time, gentler, like the sky was no longer angry, just watching. Yusuf sat on the steps outside his building, his back against the cold wall. He had nothing left to give. No job, no savings, no future he could see. Inside the apartment, Amina rocked Layla to sleep. For the first time, the baby smiled in her dreams. Yusuf watched through the cracked door. That smile was the only payment he had ever wanted. The next morning, Yusuf didn't go looking for work. There was no point. His name was already ruined. Instead, he walked to the small mosque near the market. He sat quietly in the back, not to ask for miracles, just to breathe. That's when he noticed a man sitting across from him, older, well-dressed, eyes heavy with thought. The man approached Yusuf after prayers. "I saw you yesterday," he said softly. Yusuf stiffened. "Where?" "In the office lobby," the man replied, "when you knelt." Yusuf looked away, ashamed. "I work in investigations," the man continued. "Corporate ethics." Yusuf's heart pounded. The man placed a hand on his shoulder. "You didn't know," he said, "but the building's cameras recorded everything." Yusuf's breath caught. "The contract," the man went on, "was illegal. The accident wasn't your fault." Yusuf's legs weakened. The man smiled. "We corrected the record this morning." Yusuf whispered, "Why?" The man answered simply, "Because I was once that baby." Yusuf froze. "My mother was homeless," the man said. "A stranger helped us. I survived." Tears streamed down Yusuf's face. That afternoon, everything changed. Yusuf's firing was reversed. His brother's company faced investigation. The truth spread faster than lies ever had. But Yusuf didn't care about that. All he asked was one question. Will the baby be okay? Weeks passed. Amina found work at a clinic, cleaning at first, then assisting. Layla grew stronger, healthier. One evening, Amina stood in Yusuf's doorway with papers in her hands. "They approved it," she whispered. "Housing support, child care." She looked at Yusuf. "You saved us." Yusuf shook his head. "No," he said gently. "You stayed alive. I just refused to walk away." Months later, Yusuf stood in a small park. Amina sat on a bench nearby, Layla laughing in the sun. The baby reached out her arms toward Yusuf. He lifted her carefully. She touched his face and laughed. In that moment, Yusuf felt something he hadn't felt since losing his son. Peace. Not because life was perfect, but because kindness had finally come back home. Moral. Most people didn't ignore her because they were evil. They ignored her because stopping was inconvenient, because caring was risky, because walking away was easier. But one month stopped. And because he did, a baby lived, a mother survived, and a broken one healed. You may never know what your kindness becomes, but someone's entire life might begin the moment you choose not to walk away.